Oh, I'm feeling like a kid in a candy shop, Mets fans. It's really hard not to. After letting Juan Soto, you mean to tell me the Mets aren't done making moves? Of course not. Far from it. In our Big Mets Update segment, we're going to highlight how the Mets are heavily pursuing Garrett Crochet via trade, the coveted southpaw from the White Sox, and another coveted southpaw the Mets are connected to in Roki Sasaki coming from the MPB, officially posted as of yesterday, and yes, he's impressed with our New York Mets. More on that along with Jonathan Loaisiga, another former New York Yankee that feels inevitable to land in Queens. To what degree and what are you getting in Loaisiga and all these pitchers is what we're about to highlight and break down for each and every one of you. So make sure to smash a like and subscribe button. If you haven't already, folks, let me know your initial reactions in the comments down below to it all. And also thank you so much for hearing from our amazing sponsor here at OddsJam. OddsJam, everybody, look at these results. People are making free money. They're making thousands every month betting on sports completely risk-free, all thanks to OddsJam. And OddsJam isn't just another betting app. It's turning the entire system in your favor. Here's how OddsJam uses a strategy called arbitrage, finding odds differences across sportsbooks. You bet both sides, and no matter the outcome, you will profit. Here's an example. You put $500 down on Boise State to win on FanDuel, $335 on the opponent San Fran on DraftKings, and you're guaranteed to make $50 win or lose. It's that simple. With OddsJam mobile app, you'll get real-time alerts on these opportunities every day. People are making thousands monthly, and for you to get started, use our promo code WARDY for 35% off and a 7-day free trial. I'll guarantee that you'll profit during the trial, and if you don't, cancel with one click, no questions asked. Don't leave money on the table. Go to oddsjam.com, use code WARDY, and start making money the smart way. Shout out to OddsJam as well for being an amazing sponsor here on the platform. We greatly appreciate them. So, folks, let's get into the latest reporting here, and before we deep dive Crochet, Sasaki, Loaisiga, and everyone else that we're going to highlight here in a second, let's touch briefly here on, yes, everything having to do with, yes, you guessed it, Juan Soto, because reporting came out as of yesterday that we saw from John Heyman. Furthermore, on the key details on the Juan Soto deal that I'd like to highlight briefly here, because in this piece we see that, yes, the Mets, Steve Cohen and Juan Soto met late Friday night, so that's where all the rumblings on the Mets swooping in late, oh, they really did. They came in late Friday night. He had him back at his place this time, and we saw there in Boca, and Steve Cohen said jokingly to Juan Soto, you know, I'm going to run out of homes to bring you to. And obviously, after he brought him to his Beverly Hills mansion that we highlighted further in our live stream last night, all the details about that, how much it is contrasting in comparison to other teams that pursued Soto in hotel lobbies, hotel rooms, and PowerPoints versus a luxurious mansion there in Beverly Hills with a movie presented to Juan Soto. But now we come to find out that they had a follow-up meeting that Friday night. And even then, even though that Cohen obviously was very happy in his pitch there to Soto, he knew there was uncertainty, and he knew that he could only do so much about not having Aaron Judge, not having the 27 rings, and all the other aspects that are appealing with going back to the New York Yankees. Lo and behold, Steve Cohen lands his man in Juan Soto on a record-breaking contract, and John further reaffirms today that we see, one clarification, the Yankees were not given a chance to match the Mets' winning Juan Soto bid. The Yankees had the option to keep bidding, of course, but they hit their limit at $760 for 16 years, and there was no certainty, that Soto would have stayed a Yankee had they gone even higher. So simply put, this is saying Juan Soto wanted to be a New York Met, and even if the Yanks got to say north of $800 million, there was nothing to suggest that it was a guarantee for Soto to return then, because obviously Steve was going to continue to up his bid. There was nothing stopping him, and secondly, the Mets did such a tremendous job in the hospitality aspect on taking care of Juan Soto and his family that, yes, it wasn't the main driver behind Soto's decision. It was naturally the $805 million should that that opt-out after the 5th year of the contract be voided there for an average annual value from $51 million to $55 million there for the contract. That's a lot of dough, but outside of the money, it came to the other little aspects, and that's where Alex and Steve Cohen absolutely hammered down how to give him and his family the best treatment possible, gave them a suite in which the Yankees would not give Juan Soto his own suite because they didn't do it for guys like Jeter, they didn't do it for guys like Judge, so they felt, why should we do it for you, Juan? And that that is where the ego and the status of the Yankees being the Yankees and being, listen, we are who we are, you know who we are, we don't need to sell us to you, is further shooting themselves in the foot. Not that's to a great degree, but something to highlight. Players care more than just the 27 rings, all the history that comes with being a Yankee. They want things their way, and Juan Soto wants his family treated the best way possible. Steve Cohen, without hesitation, gave Juan Soto and his family his own personal suite for his entire tenure as a Met. So again, contrasting differences between Hal Steinbrenner and Steve Cohen. But now going from those reports, let's highlight first what came out last night from Ken Rosenthal on The Athletic, doing a fantastic job with also our friend on the platform, and Will Salmon, who will be joining us as soon as tomorrow. Be on the lookout for that. Will is on the run and having to do other segments as well there throughout the winter meetings, covering the Mets through The Athletic. Great guy. Had him on when Clay Holmes, the news broke on his signing a couple days ago. Will be joining us at some point throughout these winter meetings and our live stream, so be on the lookout. But in this article breakdown, the Mets and the Yankees are among teams further vying Garrett Crochet there from the Chicago White Sox. And Ken Rosenthal goes out on a highlight here in this piece that the Mets have continued their talks for Garrett Crochet post-signing of Juan Soto. So we all know the Mets have been connected to Garrett Crochet. This goes back over the past couple weeks, really in the early goings of the offseason. We heard these rumblings going on for a bit. Those are the gorgeous Juan Soto numbers that we all can continue to drool over, but that is not what I want to show you, nor is it Willie Adames numbers, nor Corbin Burns. Can we fight it? There we go. It's Garrett Crochet. Just nastiness there. A 3.58 ERA, a 2.83 expected ERA, a 2.53 SI ERA, a fastball that touches 100, a cutter that sits mid-90s, and tunnels look more like 97, 98, 99. Some nasty breaking off-speed pitches is what you're getting as well in Garrett Crochet. As long as he can stay healthy with multiple years of control, this is why you're going to give up an arm and a leg. Furthermore, Ken Rosenthal and Will Salmon highlight in this piece how the Mets have an advantage. They actually have an edge potentially over the Yankees and other teams. As we have highlighted on the platform the past couple weeks, it is so, I cannot begin to tell you guys how much I appreciate the fact that everything that we have been spewing on the channel regarding certain players like Garrett Crochet on how the Mets have an edge. We said this 2+ weeks ago. It's true. The White Sox are looking for MLB-esque ready talent. The Mets have a lot of that in their prospect pool. From Brett Beatty still, to Jet Williams, to Luis Angel Acuna, to Ronnie Mauricio, to Drew Gilbert, to Ryan Clifford. The list goes on. And yes, like you, I do not want to see these prospects traded, but in the case of Garrett Crochet, who's already a Cy Young caliber starter in Major League Baseball, just getting his career started from a reliever stretch now to a starter, I have the utmost confidence in not only this Mets pitching lab, but certainly in Garrett Crochet to come out and dominate for the Mets. Those are his peripherals from the 2024 season per Baseball Savant. Pretty much, if you're in the 90th plus percentile of anything, you're elite. You're in your own echelon, essentially, in comparison to other pitchers in Major League Baseball. And Garrett Crochet throws gas. He gets a ridiculous swing and miss. His K per 9 just absolutely stupid this past season of the walk per 9 ratio. Garrett Crochet would come in and be a true ace in this Mets rotation, a pair with Kodai Senga and others. And just the thought of landing Garrett Crochet after landing Juan Soto, the fact that this is not a pipe dream, this is a potential reality now we're talking, as David Stearns is oh so diligent and oh so confident in his negotiation abilities throughout these trade talk processes. I'm very excited to see how this turns out. Even if the Mets don't land Garrett Crochet, won't be for a lack of effort. We know they're looking for an arm and a leg, and the Mets, as we mentioned, do have the key top prospects to part with that I would personally drive all the way there to the airport and send them to Southside Chicago myself if it meant Garrett Crochet's coming the other way. Because excluding Brandon Sproat on the pitching end, all of the MLB ready-esque batters for the Mets, as exciting as some of them are, I don't see a world where any of those players supersede what Garrett Crochet is going to do in his young Major League career and potentially the next decade for the Mets if they can land him and ink him to a long-term deal should he be able to stay healthy and be confident with that arsenal. But now going from one oh so dominant, oh so exciting, and oh so young southpaw, let's now pivot into getting into our next guy here, which has everything to do with, yes, you guessed it, Roki Sasaki, baby. Let's talk about Roki, because we saw a report today which I found fascinating. We're going to highlight that right here, right now. This comes from Jim Bowden, former GM that we know there, that has more so been an analyst in recent years for SNY. Roki Sasaki's agency is very high on Jeremy Hefner's ability to develop pitching, per Jim Bowden. Sasaki is said to be valuing endorsement opportunities, winning, and pitching development as he decides which team to play for, per Bowden. This is massive. This all favors the Mets here, and let's hammer quickly as to why that is. We talk about Sasaki. You guys see the numbers down below. This is like Yoshinobu Yamamoto sweepstakes, but even greater. He's 3 years younger than Yamamoto at 22 years of age or so. You'd be inking him to north of a 5-year deal where, again, at maximum, you can give him $7 to $10 million there because of the fact that he would be signing as an international free agent, like a prospect, like the other guys, the kids you sign out of the DR, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, you name it. It's a little bit unique here with Sasaki in this 45-day window where as we get to January 15th, he will have made a decision. He will sign somewhere. And while there's been long-lasting belief that the Dodgers look like the favorites, with obviously Ohtani, Yamamoto having won the World Series, the Padres look like a potential favorite in this long-lasting relationship with Yu Darvish, who looks over him like, another dad, if not a godfather, essentially. But in the case of the Mets here, they have the pitching lab, which is oh so exciting. They also have everything trending upward in their favor. They have, like Juan Soto, an ability to be the face of an organization the way that he would continue to be in the shadows of Aaron Judge. We all love Francisco Lindor, but this is now both Lindor and Soto's team at minimum equally right now. Lindor's the captain. Soto is the better batter. He's the more generational hitter. We know that, and they're going to feed off of each other greatly. In the case of the rotation now, Kodai Senga is our ace, but there's no denying if you add Roki Sasaki, he is set in stone our ace. Then a pair with Kodai Senga, fellow countryman, a veteran countryman who knows what it takes to not only win at the major league level, getting Cy Young votes in his first year in the bigs a couple years ago for the Mets, but also adjusting to North America and to the baseballs and to everything that you have at the major league level. Going from a 6-man rotation is something the Mets are not only comfortable with, but are very familiar with during not only Senga in 2023, but also in the course at times and stints in 2024. I have the utmost confidence in Jeremy Hefner, now the Mets' new assistant pitching coach, and Desi Drusel, however you pronounce the last name, and their ability to get the best out of pitchers. And one looking at comfortability, one looking at endorsements, one looking at being the face of an organization in a rotation, Sasaki with the Mets is like, again, cheese and wine as a perfect pair in comparison to the Dodgers, where he will constantly be in the shadows of multiple countrymen, not only Shohei Ohtani, also Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and then you add in the key bats, headlined by Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts. Simply put, if Roki Sasaki is prioritizing getting the biggest bag on endorsements, also getting the best out of a pitching lab of a team that's on the up and up and wants to be a face of an organization, there are few teams that check off the boxes better than the Mets. And even if the Mets do not land the dominant, oh so dominant Roki Sasaki with a fastball that again touches 100, just ridiculous off speed and breaking pitches, when Sasaki's right, he's literally one of the most fascinating pitchers to watch. And we saw him full-fledged dominate for Team Japan a year and a half ago in the World Baseball Classic victory over Team USA, winning gold that year with Yamamoto, with Ohtani. These Japanese pitchers are absolutely electric, but we need to stop the narrative. We need to nip it in the bud as soon as we can on the Dodgers landing all these fantastic Japanese countrymen. We need to land some of our own outside of Kodai Senga. Let's pair him with Roki Sasaki and let's have ourselves an amazing time. Mets fans, let me know how you feel about the reports that, yes, Sasaki's impressed with the Mets. He views Jeremy Hefner and their camp and what they're doing with their lab greatly. If that doesn't have you at least encouraged as a Mets fan in these sweepstakes on the potential of landing him, I don't know what does, because no one really expects the Mets to land Roki Sasaki. So if they do, this will be, again, a further mind blown on top of landing Juan Soto and anything else that the Mets inevitably do this offseason. And the most exciting aspect about all this in the case of Sasaki as well is the uniqueness of the contract. Again, normally teams have north of $7 million in bonus pool money for the 2025 IFA that they can sign players for. But, and this is something very important, teams can trade upwards of 60% of their bonus pool money. So the Mets, who currently sit right around $7 to $8 million, they can get to 10 plus million in total pool money to spend, but obviously this would likely come with the demise of their current commitment right now at $5 million plus, a massive bonus to shortstop Elian Pena, who the Mets are projected to sign once the signing period begins around January 15th, so a month or so from now. In the case of Sasaki, the Mets are continuing to heavily pursue him the way that we firmly have heard reportedly and believe it to be the case. You can probably expect them to unfortunately lose out on that prospect in Pena because of it. Now, what's most important is that the Mets need to make sure if they decommit from a top prospect in Pena, that they have to make sure that they land Sasaki. Because if they don't and they lose Pena, then you really shot yourself in the foot. Again, not that it wasn't for a lack of effort by the Mets here, but you want to make sure they don't set yourself up too much for failure. Everything is trending upward for this organization and how they are currently lined up. So I'm excited, simply put, but we'll soon find out the latest on Roki Sasaki as these winter meetings continue, and we will further highlight him throughout our live show later on this evening. So make sure you guys are on the lookout for that. So now that we talked about Roki, everybody, let's also get into what we saw here from Mike Deportes, Mike Rodriguez, who did have a report accurate, which was on the Mets going to 7:30 and then beyond that on their offer before some others had it over the past, day and a half or so. Well, according to his same sources, who I will say in the case of a lot of these Spanish reporters coming out of the DR, Puerto Rico, what have you, a lot of them do have intel, they do have sources, especially on the lower level, which is why I actually look at this and say, he's probably right. I actually believe him. I'm just not talking about it fully in a breakdown like breaking news has happened, because we need to hear it from actual more reputable sources before it's official. Because Jonathan Loaisiga to the Mets on a 3-year, $27 million deal. Now, we talked to an extent on Jonathan Loaisiga in our show yesterday, and let's further reaffirm what is exactly so appealing of Jonathan Loaisiga and why the Mets like him so much. Well, for those that don't know Jonathan Loaisiga, he's been with the Yankees since 2018 as a reliever. Only pitched 4 innings this past season due to injury, so this is another clear bounce-back candidate, similar to Jordan Romano, who was a massive bounce-back candidate in his own right, going from the Blue Jays now to the Philadelphia Phillies on a 1-year deal to be potentially, if not their closer, then a setup option for them. In the case of Loaisiga, though, in 2023 in 17 innings, he had himself a 3.6 ERA, 3.06 ERA, a 2.65 ERA. The year before that, in 2022, 48 innings, we're looking at a 4.1 ERA, a 3.46 expected ERA. In 2021, this was the breakout year for Jonathan Loaisiga, including a great postseason. 70 innings, a 2.17 ERA, and a 2.18 expected ERA, north of a 9K per 9 to a 2 walks per 9. Throughout his career, Loaisiga has right around an 8.5K per 9 to a just under 3 walks per 9 and a career 3.44 ERA and 219 innings. Why does this make so much sense for the Mets? Honestly, too much sense? Well, it starts obviously with Carlos Mendoza, who knows Loaisiga well during Mendoza's time with the New York Yankees. Then you add in Desi Druskel/Druschel, the Mets' now assistant pitching coach coming from the Yankees. He worked in hand with Loaisiga firsthand the past couple years, one-on-one. If you look at his peripherals too, this was from 2024 in a very limited sample size, so we're not going to call it, but 2023, we saw in 17 innings there, fastball velo is nasty. Again, he sits 98 there on the sinker. The four-seam he hasn't used much at all in recent years, and I'd imagine that there's more untapped potential there. I know that the sinker and the fastball right there on the same velocity, but that four-seam fastball has way too much life for it to be sitting all the way in his back pocket as his least used pitch, right around 6% of his arsenal. I think that can change and should change. The curve, the changeup, they're exciting. That sinker, though, is what plays up. That's the pitch he's throwing far and away the most with a 70% usage, at least according to 2023 numbers. And when looking at 2022, 63%. Four-seam fastball, though, he barely used. And in 2021, that massive year for him, his four-seam, again, barely used as well. Just ridiculous 2021 savant numbers. But Loaisiga, an electric arm, a flame-throwing arm that can come in to essentially be the Mets setup option for Edwin Diaz next season, with the assumption that Clay Holmes plays up, cracks a rotation spot, and the Mets don't have to defer to him in the bullpen. Give me as many former Yanks as possible, because I'm done with the notion that, the Mets getting former Yanks, and this doesn't make sense. And speaking of also a former Yankee, I just saw breaking news from John Heyman right now. Estevan Florial is signing what I believe a team there in the KBO or the MPB, one of the two. So that's besides the point. What is the point, though, is that we have seen recent successes and guys, obviously, to a great magnitude, at least Severino. The Yankees couldn't figure him out. The Mets figured him out great with a sleeper regimen. Gave the Mets a lot of innings, a lot of quality this past season. The Mets are going to get the best out of former Yankee Frankie Montas this year, the same way they're going to get the best out of Juan Soto, and the same way that I firmly believe with this pitching lab, they're going to get the best out of Jonathan Loaisiga. So be on the lookout, folks, for a potential Jonathan Loaisiga signing as soon as today. Officially, we'll be on the lookout for that, and also be on the lookout for more content, either more videos or more live live streams inevitably later on this evening. Barring changes, expected to be live right around 7:30, 7:40 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be live for at least an hour, if not two, depending on how the course of the winter meetings go tonight. And sure, any breaking news happens, we will cover it right away, as we always do here on the platform. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your biggest takeaway on not only the Soto details, Garrett Crochet, Sasaki. Which starter do you think is most likely to land with the Mets? Who do you want to see land with the Mets? And do you think it's a possibility for the Mets to still land two starters this offseason? Say one of Sean Manaea, Buehler, or Crochet, and potentially Sasaki if they can ink him, if somehow, some way they can get it done. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you as always. And as always, no matter what, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out, everybody. Have a great one.